A loud metallic scrape echoes across the silent battlefield. This slow initial start requires precise kinetic energy. I shift my center of gravity and take another heavy step. The dry earth cracks deeply beneath my front right hoof. My metallic joints lock into place with a loud, sharp snap. I breathe in the dusty air and prepare for the long charge. A simple calculation shows I need a very long, clear runway. The enemy army stands exactly 1 kilometer away from me. I can see their shiny silver armor reflecting the sunlight. They look like tiny, insignificant insects from this angle. My unique survival system relies entirely on forward motion. Every 10 meters of running multiplies my weight by a lot. I do not possess any flashy magical spells or energy beams. Momentum is the only true weapon I need in this cruel world. I lower my dark metal horn toward the distant enemy forces. The heavy air distorts around my rapidly heating iron armor. I strike the soil again and propel my heavy frame forward. Every single step requires massive amounts of kinetic force. A loud, thunderous boom echoes from my latest heavy footstep. The sheer vibration causes the local gravity to feel warped. I pick up my pace and force my legs to move much faster now. Sparks fly wildly as my hooves scrape against hidden rocks. The friction generates intense heat along my lower chassis. I ignore the rising temperature and focus on the target. My vision narrows down to the center of the enemy formation. The ground starts to give way under my increasing pressure. I am no longer just a beast, but a moving natural disaster. System log. 10 meters crossed. Mass multiplier active. My body instantly becomes 100 times much heavier. This rapid density shift forces me to adjust my balance. The sudden weight increase pushes my hooves deep into dirt. I push off the broken ground and gain more forward speed. A massive shockwave travels through the dirt beneath me. The solid bedrock beneath the soil shatters into tiny bits. I leave a wide trail of completely pulverized stone behind. My speed is still relatively low, but my mass is terrifying. I crash through a small hill and flatten it to the ground. Trees snap like dry twigs as I plow directly through them. Nothing in this immediate area can slow down my heavy pace. I feel the absolute certainty of my unstoppable trajectory. The enemy scouts finally notice the approaching destruction. A loud warning horn blares across the distant human camp. I do not care if they have time to prepare their defenses. Their pathetic preparations will not change the final math. I keep my head down and continue to accelerate my huge body. The wind violently rushes past my thick iron-plated skull. My dark metal chassis absorbs the kinetic energy flawlessly. Dozens of heavily armored knights rush to the front lines. They quickly raise their heavy steel tower shields together. Their defensive formation looks like a tiny, fragile toy box. Behind them, several mages begin chanting complex magic spells. A bright blue flash of magical energy appears in the distance. The enemy mages are trying to build a thick, solid stone wall. They waste their precious mana on such a useless tactic. I do not even bother to try and change my current course. My only objective is to completely erase the enemy camp. I forcefully stomp my right hoof and increase my momentum. The ground simply caves in under my relentless heavy advance. A deep, wide canyon forms directly behind my running path. The sheer mass of my body creates a localized earthquake. Dust and debris fly high into the air, blocking the sunlight. I am a dark shadow of pure destruction moving across the land. The human soldiers start to realize the scale of the threat. Their initial confidence quickly turns into visible panic. I can see their defensive lines wavering under the pressure. They cannot comprehend the basic physics of my existence. I am a mathematical absolute moving at a steady, fast pace. System log. 20 meters crossed. Mass is increasing. My total weight now reaches 50,000 metric tons. The sheer density of my armor makes the air around me boil. I leave a trench so deep it exposes the underground water. A geyser of mud erupts behind me as I continue my charge. My hooves strike the ground with the force of a meteor hit. The resulting shockwave knocks down the closest tall trees. I feel absolutely no resistance against my forward motion. The physical laws of this world bend around my dark form. I crash directly into the first layer of magical defenses. My horn makes contact with the glowing blue energy barrier. The massive shield explodes into tiny, harmless particles. I shatter their strongest magic without losing any speed. The backlash of the broken spell knocks several mages out. I trample over the remaining magical traps hidden in the dirt. Explosions detonate against my thick iron skin harmlessly. The fire and smoke only add to my terrifying visual aura. I emerge from the smoke cloud like an unstoppable demon. The knights in the front row grip their weapons in pure fear. They are about to learn a very painful lesson in momentum. I collide heavily with the center of the knight formation. Their thick metal armor crumples like thin sheets of paper. Dozens of elite soldiers are thrown high up into the sky. I do not stop to watch their broken bodies hit the ground. My massive hooves crush their steel shields into flat discs. The kinetic force of my charge creates a massive air blast. Soldiers standing nearby are blown away by the strong wind. I push deeper into the enemy ranks with zero hesitation. Spears and swords strike my dark iron hide and shatter fast. Broken blades rain down around me like useless metal scrap. I feel a slight tickle as a heavy warhammer hits my skull. The foolish attacker is instantly crushed under my right hoof. I maintain my straight trajectory toward the command tent. Nothing can divert my path once the momentum is fully built. The ground continues to split open beneath my heavy steps. I am digging a massive canyon straight through their army. Tents and supply wagons are completely pulverized into dust. The chaotic sounds of destruction are music to my new ears. I lower my head further and prepare for the next obstacle. The Grand Mage of the enemy army steps forward to stop me. System log, 30 meters crossed, density maximized. I now weigh 5 million tons of pure, indestructible iron. My physical presence alone warps the space directly around me. The air temperature spikes drastically due to extreme friction. I am glowing with a dark red aura of pure kinetic energy. The Grand Mage begins to chant his ultimate defensive spell. A massive wall of solid diamond erupts from the deep earth. It stands 50 feet tall and shines brightly in the sun. He believes this ultimate barrier will finally halt my run. He severely underestimates the concept of absolute momentum. I do not slow down or attempt to bypass the giant obstacle. I strike the diamond wall directly with my heavy iron horn. A deafening crack echoes across the entire ruined battlefield. The impenetrable diamond shatters into 1,000,000 tiny pieces. The sheer kinetic impact sends a shockwave through the air. The Grand Mage is violently thrown backward by the huge blast. His ultimate spell did not even slow me down for a second. I trample over the sparkling diamond dust and keep running. My speed is now reaching a truly terrifying maximum limit. The canyon behind me grows wider and deeper with every step. I am completely reshaping the geography of this entire zone. A desperate unit of light cavalry tries to flank my position. They ride swift white horses and carry long, explosive spears. Their leader shouts a loud command to strike my blind spot. I do not even bother to turn my massive heavy head toward them. My peripheral vision tracks their pathetic flanking maneuver. They throw their explosive spears directly at my thick ribs. The weapons detonate with a series of loud, bright flashes. The explosions barely scratch the dark paint on my thick armor. I simply expand my kinetic aura to cover a much wider area. The resulting shockwave knocks the horses off their weak feet. The riders are violently thrown into the muddy, broken earth. I crush 3 of them without even changing my straight path. Their fragile bones snap loudly under my heavy iron hooves. The remaining cavalrymen desperately try to crawl far away. They realize that speed is entirely useless against pure mass. I leave them behind to drown in the deep mud of my new canyon. My focus remains entirely locked on the main defensive line. The sky above me darkens as dust blocks out the bright sun. A localized storm forms from the intense heat of my friction. Lightning strikes the ground around my rapidly moving body. My iron horn acts as a perfect lightning rod for the energy. I absorb the electrical charge and convert it into more speed. Sparks of blue electricity dance across my dark metal plates. The air pressure drops significantly in my immediate vicinity. Small, loose rocks are sucked into the vacuum of my fast wake. They become deadly projectiles that shred the nearby trees. I am generating a massive tornado of dirt and broken stone. The sheer volume of noise makes it impossible to hear orders. Enemy commanders scream silently into the roaring, violent wind. A famous human hero steps into my path with a glowing sword. He wears golden armor that radiates a strong, magical aura. He probably killed many giant monsters in his glorious past. He firmly plants his feet and holds his bright blade forward. He shouts a heroic speech that I completely ignore and ruin. I do not care about his legendary status or his magic sword. He is just another mathematical variable in my kinetic run. I crash into his golden shield with the force of a meteor. His magical sword bends and shatters instantly upon impact. The hero is launched into the sky like a broken tiny ragdoll. His golden armor explodes into hundreds of useless fragments. I did not even feel a slight bump when I ran directly over him. Legends and myths mean absolutely nothing to absolute physics. Panic completely overrides their strict military discipline. I do not care about their sudden cowardly retreat at all. My path is locked, and my heavy momentum must be discharged. I crash through the main command center of the human army. Heavy stone pillars collapse instantly upon my direct impact. The luxurious silk tents are shredded into tiny, dirty rags. I crush the general's heavy war chariot into a flat pancake. The metal wheels splinter and fly away like deadly shrapnel. Every step I take causes the surrounding earth to liquefy. The extreme pressure turns the solid dirt into a fluid wave. I am surfing on a massive tidal wave of crushed brown earth. The destruction is absolute and mathematically beautiful. I feel a deep sense of satisfaction within my cold iron core. This is the true power of an unstoppable physical object. I do not need magic when I have the pure laws of motion. The enemy camp is now nothing more than a ruined memory. I keep running past the debris to safely bleed off my speed. Stopping too quickly would probably shatter my own tough bones. System log, 40 meters crossed. Absolute momentum. My weight now exceeds any measurable number in this world. I am a walking singularity of infinite kinetic destruction. The space around my horn visibly tears and distorts wildly. A dark void seems to follow my massive, unstoppable silhouette. I strike the base of a large mountain at the edge of the camp. The solid granite cliff face offers absolutely no resistance. I bore a massive tunnel straight through the thick mountain. Millions of tons of solid rock collapse directly behind me. The loud, rumbling sound drowns out the screams of the dying. I emerge on the other side of the mountain, completely unharmed. My dark iron armor is glowing with intense white-hot heat. I slowly begin to reduce my forward-pushing kinetic force. The massive weight multiplier slowly starts to deactivate now. Every step becomes slightly lighter than the previous one. The intense heat radiating from my body starts to dissipate. I finally come to a complete stop in the middle of a forest. A huge cloud of steam hisses from my heavily armored joints. I turn my massive head to look back at my destructive path. A perfect straight canyon cuts through the entire landscape. The human army has been completely erased from existence. They thought their magic and steel could easily stop a beast. They failed to calculate the absolute power of pure momentum. I exhale a thick cloud of dark smoke from my heavy nostrils. My iron hooves leave deep, burning footprints in the green grass. The surviving animals in the forest flee in absolute terror. I am the new, undisputed apex predator of this fragile world. No wall or shield will ever be strong enough to hold me back. I will continue to run and crush anyone who opposes my will. The system rewards my pure destructive actions with new power. System log. Target destroyed. Momentum mastery increased. I close my eyes and let my internal core temperature cool down. The silent forest offers a peaceful contrast to the loud war. I will rest here until the next foolish army dares to attack. When they do arrive, I will simply start running all over again. My heavy iron body is the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. I am the Iron Rhinoceros, and my charge is absolutely eternal. The thick white steam slowly stops rising from my dark armor. My internal core temperature finally returns to a stable state. I stand completely still and analyze the surrounding dense woods. The giant hole in the mountain behind me serves as a warning. Any intelligent creature would immediately flee from this place. Humans rarely display the basic intelligence needed for survival. A deep, rhythmic vibration begins to shake the forest floor now. The tall, ancient trees sway violently under the sudden pressure. I calculate the exact weight of the approaching heavy footsteps. This new enemy is much heavier than the previous weak knights. Massive steel golems crush the tree line and enter the clearing. Their thick metallic bodies reflect the pale afternoon sunlight. I count exactly 5 mechanical giants standing in a wide circle. Human operators sit securely inside their thick glass chests. They probably think these oversized toys can match my raw power. A dozen elite mages step out from behind the towering machines. They plant long, glowing staffs deep into the soft forest dirt. A purple energy field rapidly expands across the entire clearing. The ambient gravity multiplies heavily, pressing me into the soil. My hooves sink several inches into the suddenly compacted earth. System log. Artificial gravity field detected in this sector. This magical trap increases my base weight without any motion. The enemy commander shouts a loud order from his secure position. Thick titanium chains shoot out from the heavy golem wrist units. The heavy metal links wrap tightly around my dark iron chassis. They anchor the thick chains deep into the solid bedrock below. The mages push more magic energy into their glowing staffs now. The gravitational pressure reaches a highly critical danger level. They want to crush my internal organs using my own heavy weight. This strategy is logically sound, but fundamentally flawed here. They forget that pressure only builds my pure kinetic potential. I slowly lower my head and align my horn with the enemy leader. The titanium chains groan loudly under my sudden forward shift. The dense gravity field tries to hold my massive body in place. I push my front hooves forward and ignite my internal engine. A loud metallic screech echoes as the heavy chains stretch out. The solid bedrock cracks under the extreme pulling tension. I take my first heavy step against the crushing magical force. The sheer physical effort generates intense heat inside my core. System log. Kinetic drive engaged. Forward momentum initiated. I force my back legs to follow the aggressive forward movement. The thick titanium links fracture under the massive heavy strain. One of the anchoring golems is violently dragged across the dirt. The human operator inside the glass chest panics and pulls back. His mechanical giant loses its balance and falls onto the ground. I ignore the fallen machine and continue my slow, heavy advance. The purple gravity field flickers as I disrupt its magical flow. My dark iron armor absorbs the heavy pressure without any damage. I take another step and shatter the first set of binding chains. The broken metal pieces fly through the air like deadly shrapnel. System log, 10 meters crossed. Mass multiplier is now active. My base weight instantly increases by a factor of 100. The sudden density shift completely destroys the gravity field. The glowing purple staffs explode into fine magical dust quickly. Several mages are thrown backward by the violent energy backlash. My heavy hooves now sink deeply into the ruined forest floor. The remaining titanium chains snap like thin, fragile, weak threads. I am completely free from their pathetic attempt at containment. My forward speed increases as the restraining forces disappear. The enemy commander screams new orders to his giant steel golems. Two massive mechanical units step directly into my charging path. They cross their thick metal arms to form a solid defensive wall. They believe their reinforced steel plating can easily stop me. I lower my head and aim my dark horn at their center mass. The ground shakes violently with every single step I take now. My heavy iron chassis glows with a faint red heat of friction. I crash directly into the first steel golem with brutal force. The loud sound of crunching metal echoes across the deep forest. My horn pierces straight through the thick steel chest plate. The human operator is ejected safely before the frame collapses. The kinetic impact throws the broken machine 50 meters away. It smashes into a large oak tree and shatters into many pieces. I do not lose any momentum from this minor physical collision. The second golem attempts to strike my side with a huge hammer. The heavy weapon bounces off my dark armor without leaving marks. I simply push my massive shoulder into its mechanical front legs. The giant steel construct flips over backward and hits the dirt. I trample directly over its main processing core without pausing. The sheer weight of my hooves flattens the machine completely. System log. 20 meters crossed. Mass is increasing rapidly. My total weight reaches a terrifying 50,000 metric tons. The surrounding air pressure drops as my speed continues to rise. A deep trench forms behind me as I plow through the soft dirt. The remaining 3 golems activate their emergency thrusters. They try to gain altitude and escape my unstoppable heavy charge. They completely underestimate the gravitational pull of my mass. My extreme density creates a localized vacuum in the nearby air. The flying machines are violently sucked back down to the earth. They crash heavily into my path and block my straight trajectory. I do not bother to alter my course to avoid their broken frames. I run straight through the pile of advanced military scrap metal. Sharp steel fragments bounce harmlessly off my thick iron hide. The enemy commander watches his elite unit get completely erased. He drops his communication device and stares in absolute horror. His initial tactical confidence is replaced by pure primal panic. I lock my visual focus onto his heavily armored command vehicle. It is a heavily armored tank powered by rare magical crystals. The driver desperately tries to start the engine and drive away. The tracks spin uselessly in the mud created by my heavy waves. System log. 30 meters crossed. Density maximized instantly. I now weigh 5 million tons of pure indestructible dark iron. My physical presence alone warps the space directly around me. The air temperature spikes drastically due to extreme friction. I am glowing with a dark red aura of pure, raw, kinetic energy. The command tank fires its main magical cannon at my heavy head. A massive beam of concentrated plasma strikes my thick iron horn. The deadly energy beam splits perfectly in half upon hard impact. The deflected plasma destroys the trees on both sides of my path. I do not blink as the intense heat washes over my heavy face. I close the remaining distance in a fraction of a single second. My massive body collides with the heavy armored command vehicle. The thick, magical shielding shatters like a fragile glass window. The tank is instantly crushed into a flat sheet of useless metal. The kinetic force of my charge creates a massive forward blast. The shock wave uproots every single tree within a 1-mile radius. The commander and his crew are knocked completely unconscious. I push deeper into the forest, leaving a trail of absolute ruin. The ground simply caves in under my relentless heavy advance. A deep, wide canyon forms directly behind my rapid running path. System log, 40 meters crossed. Absolute momentum achieved. My weight now exceeds any measurable number in this entire world. I am a walking singularity of infinite heavy kinetic destruction. The space around my horn visibly tears and distorts very wildly. A dark void seems to follow my massive, unstoppable silhouette. I approach a massive river that cuts directly through the woods. The rushing water is deep and fast, but it means nothing to me. I step into the riverbed and instantly vaporize the cold water. The extreme heat of my armor turns the entire river into steam. I cross the dry, rocky channel without losing any forward speed. On the other side of the river stands a massive fortified wall. This is the outer defensive perimeter of the human capital city. They built this giant structure to keep dangerous monsters away. The thick granite blocks are reinforced with ancient magic runes. Hundreds of heavily armed soldiers stand nervously on the walls. They fire thousands of steel arrows directly at my moving form. The projectiles burn up into ash before they even touch my armor. The thermal energy radiating from my heavy body is very intense. I do not slow down or attempt to find a weak point in the wall. I strike the massive granite wall directly with my heavy horn. System log. Heavy impact registered. Structure is compromised. A deafening explosion of crushed stone echoes across the city. The impenetrable wall shatters into a million tiny, harmless bits. The sheer kinetic impact sends a massive shockwave forward now. The soldiers on top of the wall are violently thrown backward. Their defensive perimeter did not even slow me down for a second. I trample over the sparkling granite dust and keep running fast. My speed is now reaching a truly terrifying maximum upper limit. I enter the outer districts of the sprawling human capital city. Abandoned stone houses crumble instantly as I run past them all. The sheer vibration of my heavy steps turns the streets to dust. I am completely reshaping the geography of this entire city zone. The royal palace stands tall and proud in the center of the city. It is my final destination and the ultimate test of my momentum. I lower my head further and prepare to erase their foolish king. Nothing in this fragile world can stop a heavy Iron Rhinoceros. System log. Final target acquired. Trajectory locked perfectly. The royal guards desperately assemble outside the palace gates. They hold their shiny golden spears with trembling weak hands. I do not care about their pathetic loyalty to a doomed weak king. My path is locked, and my heavy kinetic energy must be discharged. I crash through the final line of defense without any hesitation. Their golden armor crumples like thin paper under my huge weight. The heavy palace doors explode inward from the huge air pressure. I run directly into the grand throne room with unstoppable force. The marble pillars collapse instantly upon my direct hard impact. I crush the golden throne and the foolish king into flat metal. The destruction is absolute and mathematically beautiful to see. I feel a deep sense of satisfaction within my cold iron core now. This is the true power of an unstoppable physical heavy object. System log. Kingdom destroyed. Momentum mastery maximized now. I slowly begin to reduce my forward-pushing heavy kinetic force. The massive weight multiplier slowly starts to deactivate itself. Every step becomes slightly lighter than the previous heavy one. I finally come to a complete stop in the ruins of the palace. I am the Iron Rhinoceros, and my charge is completely eternal. The thick dust slowly settles over the ruined royal palace. My internal core temperature drops to a stable resting state. I survey the flattened architecture of this foolish kingdom. Their grand marble pillars are now just fine white powder. A deep silence replaces the chaotic noise of the human war. I slowly exhale a dense cloud of dark exhaust from my lungs. This entire capital city was erased in a single heavy charge. I feel absolutely no remorse for their inevitable destruction. They built their weak society directly in Block 4, my designated path of unstoppable heavy kinetic motion. The ruined palace floors crack under my cooling hooves. I calculate the structural integrity of the deep vault. A hidden energy source pulsates beneath the broken rock. This magical frequency does not match the human wizards. The crushed golden throne suddenly melts into hot liquid. System log. Divine energy signature detected below. A pillar of blinding white light erupts from the crater. The ambient temperature rises by 400 degrees now. I brace my heavy iron frame against the thermal shock wave. A massive humanoid figure manifests within the bright beam. Its body consists entirely of compressed stellar plasma. The local gravity reverses direction around its presence. Floating chunks of marble debris hover in the ruined air. This must be the legendary guardian of the human kingdom. They summoned a celestial weapon to stop my iron advance. The glowing titan points a massive burning finger at me. A solid beam of concentrated solar energy strikes my head. The kinetic impact pushes my heavy body back 3 meters. My dark armor absorbs the extreme heat without melting down. I dig my back hooves deep into the shattered palace floor. This celestial entity possesses incredible physical force. System log. Target analysis complete. Threat level maximum. I must initiate a new cycle of absolute forward momentum. The Guardian summons a giant sword made of pure, hard light. It swings the massive weapon down toward my armored spine. I activate my internal engine and lunge forward instantly. The blade of light strikes the empty ground behind my tail. A deep trench instantly forms across the entire ruined city. I ignore the explosive shockwave and begin my heavy sprint. The first 10 meters require immense mechanical effort now. My heavy iron joints lock into a perfect running formation. The celestial giant turns around and prepares another strike. It calculates my current trajectory with divine precision. I do not plan to change my straight path of heavy motion. System log. 10 meters crossed. Mass multiplier engaged. My base weight immediately jumps to 100 metric tons. The floating marble debris crashes back down to the earth. My increased density cancels out the reversed gravity field. The Titan swings its glowing sword in a wide horizontal arc. I lower my thick armored head and accelerate into the blade. The hard light weapon shatters against my dark iron horn. Millions of bright photon shards scatter across the ruins. The Guardian stumbles backward from the unexpected recoil. I push my massive legs harder against the crumbling stone. The friction generates a thick trail of dark gray exhaust. I aim my heavy charge directly at the center of its chest. The divine entity attempts to project a solid energy shield. System log. 20 meters crossed. Density is scaling up. My total mass reaches 10,000 tons of pure dark metal. The ground beneath my heavy hooves turns into liquid magma. I smash into the divine energy shield with brutal velocity. The golden barrier cracks like a thin sheet of fragile ice. The kinetic shockwave flattens the remaining city walls. The Titan loses its balance and falls onto its massive back. I trample directly over its glowing plasma chest cavity. The sheer weight of my iron body disrupts its physical form. I do not stop to confirm the destruction of the holy weapon. My forward momentum demands a continuous straight trajectory. The ruined capital city quickly fades into the background. I enter the vast eastern desert plains at maximum velocity. The deep golden sand instantly turns into solid black glass. The extreme thermal output of my armor melts the entire dune. System log. 30 meters crossed. Weight limit bypassed. I now weigh over 1 million tons of unstoppable dark iron. The atmospheric pressure around my body drops significantly. A massive sandstorm forms behind my rapid kinetic advance. The sky turns completely dark as the heavy dust rises high. I detect a massive geographical obstacle directly ahead now. The legendary Dragon Peak mountain range blocks the horizon. These ancient stone peaks reach above the highest white clouds. They are composed of the hardest natural minerals on Earth. Normal creatures would alter their path to avoid the rocks. I am a machine of absolute heavy momentum and straight lines. I lock my internal targeting systems onto the tallest peak. System log. 40 meters crossed. Continental mass achieved. My physical weight now equals the mass of a small continent. The tectonic plates shift violently under my running hooves. A massive earthquake spreads across the entire desert region. Deep fissures open in the earth and swallow the glass dunes. I strike the base of the massive mountain with my heavy horn. The deafening sound of shattering bedrock fills the dark air. I do not slow down as I penetrate the solid granite exterior. My extreme density allows me to swim through the solid stone. The mountain literally splits in half from the pure pressure. Millions of tons of heavy rock rain down upon the wasteland. I carve a perfectly straight tunnel through the entire range. The friction inside the mountain turns the stone into plasma. I exit the other side of the peak like a fired cannonball. System log. 50 meters crossed. Gravitational anomaly. My sheer mass begins to pull nearby objects into my orbit. Boulders and broken trees circle my heavy running silhouette. The landscape ahead is a vast ocean of deep, volatile water. The continental shelf drops off into a dark, bottomless abyss. I step off the rocky cliff and crash down into the deep sea. The massive kinetic impact creates a terrifying, huge tsunami. A wall of water 500 meters high rushes to the shore. I sink rapidly toward the dark bottom of the freezing ocean. My internal furnace keeps my iron chassis incredibly hot now. The surrounding cold water instantly vaporizes upon contact. I create a massive bubble of high-pressure steam around me. My heavy hooves finally strike the solid oceanic floor below. System log. Deep sea environment detected. Speed maintained. I continue my unstoppable running charge across the seabed. The immense water pressure is completely irrelevant to my mass. I plow through ancient coral reefs and deep underwater ridges. Giant sea monsters attempt to bite my glowing dark iron hide. Their massive sharp teeth shatter instantly against my armor. I do not even register their pathetic biological attacks here. The kinetic shockwave of my steps kills them all immediately. I am approaching a massive active underwater volcanic fissure. Boiling red magma violently spews from the deep ocean trench. I alter my trajectory slightly to hit the volcano dead center. System log. 60 meters crossed. Thermal limits exceeded. My total weight reaches an incomprehensible planetary scale. The entire ocean floor buckles under my relentless advance. I crash directly into the erupting underwater volcanic vent. The sheer physical force completely plugs the massive crater. The trapped geological pressure builds to a critical maximum. A catastrophic explosion rips the oceanic crust wide open now. I am violently propelled upward by the massive magma eruption. My heavy iron body breaks the surface of the boiling ocean. I fly through the dark, stormy sky like a heavy metallic god. The gravitational pull of my mass distorts the dark clouds. I calculate my exact landing coordinates with cold precision. System log. Airborne trajectory locked. Impact imminent. I am falling directly toward the central continent of demons. They have watched my destructive path across the entire globe. Their elite dark armies are currently gathering on the plains. Millions of heavily armored warriors prepare for my arrival. They construct massive defensive shields using forbidden magic. It is a mathematically useless attempt to stop my heavy mass. I angle my thick iron horn straight down toward their army. The atmospheric friction turns my body into a falling meteor. I strike the center of the demon formation with absolute force. The kinetic explosion instantly vaporizes 1 million soldiers. A massive crater forms across the entire dark central plain. The forbidden magic shields shatter into invisible fragments. System log. 70 meters crossed. Absolute devastation. I stand up slowly from the center of the glowing hot crater. My internal engine roars with fresh, unstoppable kinetic power. The surviving demon lords stare at me in complete frozen fear. They drop their heavy dark weapons onto the burning black soil. I do not care about their sudden, pathetic display of surrender. I dig my front hooves into the soft, molten rock of the crater. I ignite my heavy kinetic drive and begin to run forward again. The demon lords are instantly crushed beneath my massive weight. I plow through the burning wasteland, leaving a canyon behind me. Their dark fortresses crumble like sand under my heavy charge. System log. 80 meters crossed. Momentum is infinite now. The structural integrity of the entire planet begins to fail. My sheer heavy mass is tearing the continental plates apart. Deep rivers of bright magma flow into the massive new canyons. The sky burns with a dark red hue of absolute thermal ruin. I lock my visual sensors onto the final target of this world. The towering world tree stands at the edge of the dark realm. It is the magical anchor that holds this fragile planet together. Its roots extend deep into the very core of the spinning Earth. I lower my heavy armored head and accelerate toward the tree. The ancient magical roots try to wrap around my moving legs. They snap instantly against the sheer force of my heavy advance. System log: 90 meters crossed. Target impact imminent. I crash directly into the massive trunk of the giant world tree. The impact generates a shockwave that circles the entire globe. The indestructible magical wood splinters under my iron horn. I push my massive weight entirely through the ancient structure. The world tree slowly collapses onto the burning, ruined Earth. The magical atmosphere of the planet instantly dissipates away. I stand alone in the center of the absolute global destruction. My internal core temperature finally begins to cool down safely. System log: 100 meters crossed. World erased fully. I exhale a massive cloud of dark metallic exhaust into the void. The Iron Rhinoceros requires a brand new path to run across now. A bright dimensional portal opens directly in front of my face. The cosmic architects are inviting me to their divine domain. They probably want to punish me for destroying their creation. They do not understand the fundamental laws of kinetic energy. I am not a simple beast that can be contained or disciplined. I am the inevitable physical conclusion of all moving objects. I step into the glowing portal without losing any forward speed. System log: dimensional boundary breached. New realm found. The infinite cosmic highway stretches out before my heavy hooves. My kinetic drive ignites with a blinding flash of dark energy. I lower my heavy iron head and begin my eternal running charge. The glowing portal closes behind my heavy metallic tail. A smooth bridge of solid starlight stretches out ahead. This pristine divine architecture requires a stress test. I strike the glowing surface with my front iron hooves. The celestial bridge vibrates under my base physical mass. These cosmic creators build their realms far too fragile. I initiate a steady trot across the bright cosmic highway. My internal furnace ignites with fresh kinetic potential. I must reach my optimal running velocity without any delay. System log: 10 meters crossed. Mass multiplier engaged. My base weight immediately jumps to 100 metric tons. The starlight bridge begins to crack under my heavy steps. I do not care about the structural integrity of this path. A group of towering golden figures appears on the horizon. They project a massive holographic barrier across the road. These supreme architects intend to block my kinetic advance. I lower my thick armored head and increase my running pace. The friction generates a trail of dark sparks behind me now. I calculate the exact density of their glowing energy wall. System log: 20 meters crossed. Density is scaling up. My total mass reaches 10,000 tons of pure dark metal. The sudden gravitational shift distorts the nearby stars. I smash into the holographic barrier with brutal velocity. The golden energy wall shatters into millions of fragments. The towering figures stumble backward in complete disbelief. They quickly summon heavy chains made of pure neutron stars. The glowing links wrap tightly around my thick iron legs. I barely register the physical resistance against my joints. My forward momentum demands a continuous straight trajectory. System log: 30 meters crossed. Weight limit bypassed. I now weigh over 1 million tons of unstoppable dark iron. The heavy neutron chains snap like thin pieces of dry thread. The kinetic recoil throws the cosmic architects off balance. I trample directly over their glowing golden chest plates. Their divine armor crumbles under my massive physical weight. I do not stop to observe their inevitable physical collapse. A massive floating city of crystal approaches my trajectory. This must be the central hub of their supreme cosmic order. I aim my heavy horn directly at the largest crystal tower. System log: 40 meters crossed. Continental mass achieved. My physical weight now equals the mass of a small continent. The ambient gravity of the floating city pulls me downward. I use this external force to accelerate my heavy iron charge. I crash through the outer crystal walls without slowing down. The entire floating metropolis shakes from the brutal impact. Perfectly symmetrical buildings collapse into fine white dust. Thousands of winged guardians dive from the bright sky above. They throw spears of concentrated antimatter at my dark hide. The explosive projectiles detonate against my thick armor. System log, 50 meters crossed. Gravitational anomaly. My sheer mass begins to pull the winged guardians into orbit. Their fragile bodies smash against my incredibly hot chassis. I ignore the pathetic sparks of their failing holy weapons. The central crystal tower stands directly in my current path. It pulses with the combined energy of 1,000 young suns. I strike the massive structure with absolute kinetic force. The deafening sound of shattering crystal fills the vacuum. I carve a perfectly straight tunnel through the entire tower. The friction inside the building turns the glass into plasma. System log, 60 meters crossed. Thermal limits exceeded. My total weight reaches an incomprehensible planetary scale. The floating crystal city completely disintegrates behind me. I step off the ruined edge and enter the deep cosmic void. My massive momentum carries me forward through empty space. The surrounding temperature drops to absolute zero instantly. My internal engine keeps my dark metal body incredibly hot. I detect a vast ocean of liquid souls directly ahead of me. This ethereal barrier separates the lower and upper heavens. I do not alter my straight trajectory to avoid the deep water. System log, 70 meters crossed. Ethereal fluid detected. My infinite mass plunges directly into the glowing blue ocean. The liquid souls boil instantly upon contact with my hot iron. A massive cloud of spiritual steam rises into the dark cosmos. Millions of trapped spirits are violently freed by my advance. Giant ethereal leviathans attempt to swallow my heavy frame. Their spectral jaws shatter against my unstoppable momentum. I am a machine of absolute heavy physics and straight lines. The immense pressure of the soul ocean tries to slow me down. I push my heavy hooves harder against the invisible currents. System log, 80 meters crossed. Momentum is infinite now. My sheer physical weight begins to warp the ethereal fluid. A massive whirlpool forms behind my rapid underwater sprint. I tear a permanent physical canyon through the spiritual sea. The glowing blue waters are violently pushed to the far sides. I breach the surface and launch my heavy body into the air. The gravitational pull of my mass distorts the local physics. I land heavily upon a solid platform of compressed stardust. This is the legendary forge where new constellations are born. Massive hammers of pure gravity pound against glowing planets. System log, 90 meters crossed. Cosmic forge compromised. I run directly through the center of the active stellar forge. A giant gravity hammer swings down toward my armored spine. I accelerate my internal engine and meet the brutal strike. The unbreakable cosmic tool shatters into 1,000,000 pieces. The celestial blacksmiths stare at my dark form in pure terror. They drop their glowing tongs onto the burning stellar floor. I trample their newly forged planets into flat metallic disks. The kinetic shockwave extinguishes a dozen newborn white suns. I leave a trail of absolute destruction across their workshop. System log, 100 meters crossed. Star mass achieved. My total weight now exceeds the mass of a supermassive star. The fabric of the divine dimension begins to tear around me. A giant ring of dark matter materializes directly ahead now. The supreme creator of this universe steps out from the ring. He holds a staff that controls the fundamental laws of time. He attempts to freeze my heavy body in a static temporal loop. I feel a slight drop in my internal combustion engine speed. My infinite mass completely breaks his fragile temporal laws. The frozen time field shatters like a cheap pane of glass. System log, 110 meters. Reality anchors failing. The Supreme Creator stares at my advancing iron horn in fear. He tries to rewrite the physical coordinates of my trajectory. My extreme density anchors me firmly to this exact reality. I collide with the dark matter ring at maximum running speed. The cosmic structure violently explodes into pure, raw energy. The Supreme Creator is instantly erased by the kinetic shock. His divine staff snaps in half under my heavy trampling hooves. The fundamental laws of this universe immediately shut down. I do not care about the collapse of their fragile cosmic order. System log, 120 meters, dimension collapsing. The structural integrity of this entire dimension is failing. My heavy iron hooves trample the fabric of space and time. Deep tears in reality open up along my straight-running path. I do not alter my course to avoid these dangerous black holes. My sheer physical weight simply crushes the spatial anomalies. The cosmic highway crumbles into a chaotic storm of dead stars. I lock my visual sensors onto the final barrier of this realm. A massive gate of pure white light blocks the dimensional exit. I push my internal furnace to its absolute maximum temperature. System log, 130 meters. Impact imminent. I crash directly into the massive gate of pure white light. The kinetic impact generates a universal scale shockwave now. The indestructible divine metal splinters under my heavy horn. I push my massive weight through the ancient holy structure. The entire divine dimension slowly collapses into a dark void. The bright cosmic atmosphere instantly dissipates into nothing. I stand alone in the center of the absolute universal ruin. My internal core temperature begins to cool down safely now. I survey the empty black canvas of this destroyed universe. System log, 140 meters. Realm erased fully. I exhale a massive cloud of dark exhaust into the silent void. The heavy iron beast requires a brand new path to run across. A new dimensional portal opens directly in front of my face. The multiverse is filled with endless targets for my momentum. These foolish gods still do not understand my kinetic energy. I am the inevitable physical conclusion of all moving objects. I step into the new portal without losing any forward speed. The infinite cosmic highway stretches out before my heavy horn. My kinetic drive ignites with a blinding flash of dark energy. System log, 150 meters. Multiverse breached. I lower my heavy iron head and begin my eternal running charge. The next universe features a sky made of solid, burning brass. I calculate the structural weakness of their metallic heaven. My base physical mass resets to accommodate the new physics. I strike the brass ground with my heavy front iron hooves. The metallic crust immediately buckles under my immense weight. A legion of mechanical angels descends from the burning clouds. They deploy massive harpoons attached to thick titanium cables. I do not deviate from my perfectly straight running trajectory. System log, 10 meters crossed. Mass multiplier engaged. My base weight immediately jumps to 100 metric tons. The heavy titanium harpoons bounce harmlessly off my dark hide. The mechanical angels attempt to pull me backward with force. My forward momentum violently rips the cables from their hands. The sudden kinetic recoil shatters their fragile metal wings. They crash down onto the burning brass ground in total ruin. I trample their broken robotic bodies into flat metal scrap. The friction of my charge melts the brass floor beneath me. System log, 20 meters crossed. Density is scaling up. My total mass reaches 10,000 tons of pure dark metal. The burning brass sky begins to warp around my heavy gravity. A massive fortress of solid iron blocks my straight path ahead. It is defended by giant mechanical titans wielding plasma axes. I accelerate my engine and lower my thick, heavy armored horn. The leading titan swings its glowing axe toward my thick neck. I smash directly into its heavy legs with absolute pure force. The massive robot is instantly destroyed by my kinetic impact. System log, 30 meters crossed, weight limit bypassed. I now weigh over 1 million tons of unstoppable dark iron. I crash through the outer walls of the solid iron fortress now. The thick metallic barriers fold like thin sheets of wet paper. The remaining titans are crushed under the falling heavy roof. I do not stop to confirm the complete destruction of the base. My forward momentum demands a continuous, straight trajectory. A massive sea of highly corrosive acid stretches out before me. The green liquid dissolves all solid matter in a few seconds. I plunge my heavy iron hooves directly into the dangerous acid. System log, 40 meters crossed. Continental mass achieved. My physical weight now equals the mass of a small continent. The highly corrosive acid boils instantly against my hot armor. A massive cloud of toxic green steam rises into the brass sky. My dark metal chassis is completely immune to chemical attacks. I displace millions of gallons of acid with every heavy step. A giant synthetic kraken rises from the deep, toxic green sea. It wraps its metallic tentacles around my incredibly hot body. The mechanical appendages melt instantly upon physical contact. System log, 50 meters crossed, gravitational anomaly. My sheer mass pulls the entire acid sea into a violent vortex. The giant kraken is crushed beneath my heavy running hooves. I trample its central processing core into a flat, useless disk. The kinetic shockwave empties the entire toxic ocean basin now. I reach the shore and climb onto a vast plain of solid gears. The machine landscape stops completely under my heavy weight. I lock my visual sensors onto the central Clockwork tower now. System log, 60 meters crossed. Thermal limits exceeded. My total weight reaches an incomprehensible planetary scale. The entire gear plane collapses into a deep subterranean void. I fall straight down toward the glowing core of this universe. My massive momentum accelerates my heavy descent into the dark. A colossal clockwork deity waits at the bottom of the deep pit. It holds a giant hammer designed to crush entire rogue planets. I angle my thick iron horn directly toward its glowing head. The clockwork god swings its giant hammer upward to meet me. System log, 70 meters crossed, absolute devastation. I smash through the giant hammer with absolute kinetic force. The indestructible weapon shatters into a billion metal shards. I crash directly into the central processing unit of the deity. The kinetic explosion instantly vaporizes its giant steel body. A massive crater forms across the entire mechanical underworld. The fundamental gears of this universe snap under the pressure. I stand up slowly from the center of the glowing hot crater. My internal engine roars with fresh, unstoppable kinetic power. System log, 80 meters crossed. Momentum is infinite now. The structural integrity of this entire brass world is failing. My heavy mass is tearing the mechanical tectonic plates apart. Deep rivers of bright liquid copper flow into the new canyons. The sky burns with a dark red hue of absolute thermal ruin. I lock my visual sensors onto the final target of this world. The towering mainspring stands at the edge of the dying realm. It is the mechanical anchor holding this entire world together. I lower my heavy armored head and accelerate toward the spring. System log, 90 meters crossed. Target impact imminent. I crash directly into the massive base of the giant mainspring. The impact generates a shockwave that circles the entire globe. The indestructible metallic coil splinters under my iron horn. I push my massive weight entirely through the giant structure. The mainspring slowly collapses onto the burning, ruined Earth. The mechanical atmosphere of the planet instantly dissipates. I stand alone in the center of the absolute global destruction. My internal core temperature begins to cool down safely now. System log, 100 meters crossed. World erased fully. I exhale a massive cloud of dark exhaust into the silent void. The heavy iron beast requires a brand new path to run across. A bright dimensional portal opens directly in front of my face. The cosmic architects are running out of universes to hide in. They do not understand the fundamental laws of kinetic energy. I am not a simple beast that can be contained or disciplined. I am the inevitable physical conclusion of all moving objects. I step into the new portal without losing any forward speed. The new dimension greets my iron body with absolute zero cold. A massive landscape of pure, unbreakable ice stretches forward. These frozen gods believe they can halt my kinetic potential. I strike the smooth, frozen ground with my heavy metal hooves. Deep fractures instantly spiderweb across the ancient glacier. Thermal resistance is completely futile against my dark engine. System log. 10 meters crossed. Mass multiplier engaged. My base weight immediately jumps to 100 metric tons. The extreme cold attempts to freeze my heavy mechanical joints. I simply ignite my internal furnace to its maximum temperature. A thick cloud of hot steam erupts from my dark armored chassis. The sudden thermal shock wave shatters the surrounding ice walls. I maintain my perfectly straight trajectory across the tundra. A legion of frost giants emerges from the deep frozen canyons. They hurl massive spears of solid, absolute zero energy at me. The frozen weapons vaporize instantly against my hot iron hide. System log. 20 meters crossed. Density is scaling up. My total mass reaches 10,000 tons of pure dark metal. The heavy ice shelf completely collapses under my running weight. I plunge deep into the freezing waters of the subterranean sea. My extreme internal heat instantly boils the dark frozen ocean. I displace millions of gallons of water with every single step. The frost giants are swept away by the violent boiling current. I do not care about their pathetic struggle against the physics. I lock my sensors onto the central pillar of this frozen world. It is a massive column of ice that holds the sky in its place. I lower my thick iron horn and accelerate through the deep water. System log. 30 meters crossed. Weight limit bypassed. I now weigh over 1 million tons of unstoppable dark iron. The immense water pressure cannot slow down my kinetic advance. I crash into the submerged base of the giant frozen world pillar. The indestructible magical ice splinters under my heavy impact. I push my massive physical weight directly through the structure. The towering ice column collapses into the boiling dark ocean. The frozen sky above begins to fall in massive, jagged fragments. I ignore the falling debris and continue my straight trajectory. My forward momentum requires a brand new target for destruction. System log. 40 meters crossed. Continental mass achieved. My physical weight now equals the mass of a small continent. The tectonic plates of ice shift violently under my heavy hooves. A massive earthquake spreads across the entire frozen wasteland. The supreme deity of this cold realm finally reveals his form. He manifests as a towering storm of pure absolute zero blizzards. He attempts to freeze the very fabric of time around my chassis. I simply push my internal combustion engine to a higher output. The temporal freeze shatters against my absolute thermal energy. I aim my heavy kinetic charge directly at his frozen storm core. System log. 50 meters crossed. Gravitational anomaly. My sheer mass begins to pull the falling sky into my dark orbit. Massive chunks of ice circle my heavy running dark silhouette. I smash into the center of the supreme blizzard with pure force. The kinetic shockwave instantly disperses the huge frozen storm. The supreme deity loses his physical form and fades into nothing. I trample his remaining magical essence into the boiling ocean. The structural integrity of this entire frozen dimension fails. The sheer physical force displaces the entire frozen atmosphere. A deafening roar of shattering ice echoes across the dead world. System log. 60 meters crossed. Thermal limits exceeded. My total weight reaches an incomprehensible planetary scale. The boiling subterranean sea completely vaporizes into thin air. I step onto the exposed bedrock of the dying frozen universe. My heavy hooves tear deep canyons through the solid dark stone. The ambient gravity of this realm collapses under my heavy mass. I lock my visual sensors onto the final dimensional exit gate. It is a massive archway made of pure, indestructible starlight. I lower my thick armored head and accelerate toward the portal. I do not plan to slow down my engine for this simple transition. System log: 70 meters crossed. Absolute devastation. I crash directly into the massive archway of bright starlight. The kinetic impact generates a universal scale shockwave now. The indestructible cosmic metal splinters under my heavy horn. I push my massive weight entirely through the ancient structure. The frozen dimension completely shatters into a dark, empty void. I stand alone in the center of the absolute universal ruin now. My internal core temperature begins to cool down safely again. I exhale a massive cloud of dark exhaust into the silent void. The heavy iron beast requires a brand new path to run across. System log: 80 meters crossed. Momentum is infinite now. A bright geometric portal opens directly in front of my face. The cosmic architects are desperate to stop my kinetic energy. They send me into a universe composed entirely of pure logic. I step into the glowing mathematical grid without losing speed. My heavy iron hooves strike the solid neon lines of the floor. The digital landscape immediately glitches under my base mass. A swarm of glowing geometric shapes descends from the grid sky. They attempt to calculate and delete my physical kinetic mass. I am a machine of absolute heavy momentum and straight lines. System log: 90 meters crossed. Target impact imminent. My extreme physical density completely breaks their algorithms. The glowing geometric shapes shatter against my dark iron hide. I leave a trail of corrupted digital code behind my rapid charge. A massive firewall of burning plasma blocks my straight path. I accelerate my internal engine and lower my thick, heavy horn. I smash into the burning digital barrier with brutal velocity. The plasma wall shatters into millions of useless broken pixels. The kinetic shockwave formats the entire surrounding data grid. I plow through the corrupted landscape, leaving a canyon behind. System log: 100 meters crossed. World erased fully. The central processing core of this universe stands before me. It is a towering pyramid of pure, concentrated digital light. I aim my heavy kinetic charge directly at its glowing base. The system administrators deploy their ultimate deletion beam. A solid laser of antimatter strikes my heavy armored forehead. The digital attack is completely irrelevant to my sheer mass. I crash directly into the massive base of the glowing pyramid. The indestructible logical structure splinters under my impact. I push my massive weight entirely through the giant digital core. System log: 110 meters. Reality anchors failing. The digital gravity attempts to suspend my heavy iron chassis. My mechanical weight instantly crushes their virtual physics. I trample their sacred databanks into flat, useless metal scrap. The glowing pyramid slowly collapses into the corrupted grid. The mathematical atmosphere of the planet instantly dissipates. I stand alone in the center of the absolute systemic destruction. My internal core temperature begins to cool down safely again. I exhale a massive cloud of dark exhaust into the silent void. The heavy iron beast requires a brand new path to run across. System log: 120 meters. Dimension collapsing. A new dimensional portal opens directly in front of my face. The multiverse is running out of complex realms to hide within. I step into the bright new portal without losing forward speed. The next cosmic highway stretches out before my heavy hooves. This universe is a dense cluster of supermassive black holes. The ambient gravity is millions of times stronger than normal. I strike the dark compressed matter with my heavy front hooves. The gravitational pull attempts to crush my dark iron chassis. My total physical mass is vastly superior to their black holes. System log: 130 meters. Impact imminent. I simply ignite my internal furnace to a much higher output. A thick cloud of bright cosmic plasma erupts from my exhaust. I maintain my perfectly straight trajectory across the dark void. A legion of dark matter leviathans emerges from the deep abyss. They attempt to swallow my heavy glowing body with massive jaws. The dark matter teeth shatter instantly against my hot armor. I do not even register their pathetic biological attacks here. The kinetic shockwave of my heavy steps kills them immediately. I lock my visual sensors onto the central singularity ahead. System log, 140 meters. Realm erased fully. It is a massive swirling vortex of pure, absolute dark gravity. I lower my thick armored head and accelerate toward the vortex. I do not plan to change my straight path of heavy motion now. The event horizons of the black holes bend around my heavy mass. I am a physical anomaly that cannot be consumed by dark gravity. The cosmic pressure tries to flatten my thick, dark iron armor. I crash directly into the massive center of the dark singularity. The kinetic impact generates a universal scale shockwave now. The indestructible gravity well splinters under my heavy horn. System log, 150 meters, multiverse breached. I push my massive weight entirely through the dark structure. The black hole dimension completely shatters into a dark void. I stand alone in the center of the absolute universal ruin now. My internal core temperature begins to cool down safely again. I exhale a massive cloud of dark exhaust into the silent void. The heavy iron beast requires a brand new path to run across. A bright golden portal opens directly in front of my face now. This is the prime celestial domain of the original architects. I step into the glowing golden gateway without losing my speed. System log, 160 meters, absolute 0 point. The ground is forged from the compressed bones of dead planets. I strike the pale surface with my heavy front dark iron hooves. The ancient planetary crust buckles under my immense weight. A legion of prime creator gods descends from the golden clouds. They wield massive weapons forged from active dark black holes. I do not deviate from my perfectly straight running trajectory. The leading creator god swings a heavy singularity hammer at me. I lower my thick armored head and accelerate into the strike. The singularity hammer shatters against my dark iron horn now. System log, 170 meters. End of all things. The explosive recoil throws the prime creator god off balance. I trample his glowing divine body into the pale planetary dust. The sheer weight of my iron body destroys his immortal essence. The remaining creator gods stare at my dark form in pure terror. They finally understand the fundamental laws of kinetic energy. I aim my heavy charge directly at their ultimate golden palace. It is a massive structure that spans the entire bright horizon. The gods attempt to project a combined universal energy shield. I push my massive legs harder against the crumbling pale stone. System log, 180 meters, final target locked. The friction generates a thick trail of dark gray exhaust now. I smash into the universal energy shield with brutal velocity. The golden barrier cracks like a thin sheet of fragile ice. The kinetic shockwave flattens the remaining celestial armies. I crash through the outer walls of the ultimate golden palace. The thick metallic barriers fold like thin sheets of wet paper. Perfectly symmetrical golden pillars collapse into fine dust. I do not stop to confirm the complete destruction of the gods. My forward momentum demands a continuous straight trajectory. System log, 190 meters. Creator erased now. The prime creator of the multiverse sits upon a floating throne. He attempts to rewrite the physical laws of my very existence. My extreme density anchors me firmly to this exact reality now. I crash directly into the massive base of his floating throne. The indestructible cosmic throne splinters under my heavy horn. I push my massive weight entirely through the divine structure. The prime creator is instantly erased by the kinetic shockwave. The fundamental laws of the entire multiverse immediately fail. The Golden Palace slowly collapses onto the ruined pale Earth. System log, 200 meters crossed, absolute infinity. The golden clouds rain down tears of pure concentrated starlight. I ignore the divine sorrow and continue my relentless heavy run. The fabric of the multiverse tears under my heavy iron hooves. The celestial atmosphere of the realm instantly dissipates away. I stand alone in the center of the absolute multiversal ruin. My internal core temperature finally begins to cool down safely. I exhale a massive cloud of dark exhaust.